All right, Shalom. Giving all praises, all glory, all honors unto Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles, elder bishops of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the 144,000 rest of the hopeful elect out there, men and women, brothers and sisters out there. This is your brother, the priest of Zawan from JMS Atlanta, back with another edifying video. And have you been paying attention? Have you been paying attention to the signs? I have to ask, have you been paying attention to the signs that were given us in the scriptures? And of course, by signs, I mean prophecies. Now, those of us that are a part of Great Millstone or, believe in teaching the Great Millstone, GMS doctrine, it's embedded in us, or it's pushed to us, that we should be paying attention to what's going on. And there's definitely a lot going on. We're coming to the end of America. I mean, after all these years, we've been out there teaching and fighting in the spirit. I mean, the apostles, the elder bishops, they have for decades. Which a lot of us are going on decades too. Almost 20 years for some of us. But as the scriptures say, though it tarry, wait for it. It shall surely come. And now it's beginning to be manifest that we are at the end of Esau's kingdom, and the beginning of Jacob's kingdom is soon at hand. So this is the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse 9. And these words are in red, so you know that this is Yahweh Shai speaking. And it says, when you hear of wars and disturbances, civil unrest, revolts, uprisings, and this is in the Amplified Bible, it says, do not panic, for these things must take place first, but the end will not come immediately. Now, Yahweh Shai is speaking on these things in reference to his disciples asking him about the coming end. And you can read up in the chapter, Luke 21st chapter. So I'll read verse 7. It says, they asked him, Teacher, when will these things happen? And what will be the sign when these things are about to happen? So Yahweh Shai proceeded to give his disciples, and now us, signs when these things would take place, which will lead to his coming. Okay? He left us signs. Let's see what this word sign means. Okay, so when you go into the Greek, you get a Bible dictionary, you can go into the Greek, and you can see, let's see, the word for sign is G4592.
Strong's G 4592, Semayon.
Semayon, which is the Greek word for a sign, a mark, a token. That by which a person or thing is distinguished. See here, a sign, prodigy, portent, an unusual occurrence transcending the common course of nature. Yeah, of signs portending remarkable events soon to happen. Let's see here. Miracle, sign, token, wonder. So things that you are to look for that could only be from the Heavenly Father, from the power of the Most High to take place. Okay? So verse 8, it says, he said, be careful and see to it that you are not misled. For many will come in my name, appropriating for themselves the name Messiah, which belongs to me alone. So that means you're going to have false teachers and false prophets that are going to be out, that are going to be out teaching in the world a false doctrine, saying, I am he and the time is near. Do not follow them. And does that mean that every prophet that says the time is near is wrong? No, the prophets are supposed to tell you that the time is near, but they're going to mislead you in other areas. Okay? For example, saying that the MOTB, the mark of the beast, is sin in all its forms, and the image of the beast is a picture of a Cesare Borgia, white Jesus. That's a sign of a false teacher, false Messiah. Okay? Or claiming that they come in the name of the Messiah as if they're one of his followers, and that's not true. Yahweh Shai says, do not follow them. So we're supposed to be looking for signs. And those true teachers are going to teach you about the signs to come. As a matter of fact, let me get the book of Jeremiah, 28th chapter. I'm sorry, no. Yeah, let's go to the prophet, the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha. Let's go to the book of 2nd Ezra. 2nd Ezra chapter 15 and 1. Let's see what it says. It says, behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. So the true men of the Lord are going to tell you about the signs, which are the prophecies of the end of this current wicked world and of the righteous kingdom to come. It says, verse 3, fear not the imaginations against thee, let not the incredulity means unfaithful, or no credit. Let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. So you got a lot of people that speak against Hebrew Israelites, that speak against GMS. It says, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. So if you don't believe what we're saying, then you're going to die. And that's just a matter of fact. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. So the men of the Lord are going to go into the prophecies, and they're going to speak the words of prophecy. So now let's go back here to the book of Luke. This is Luke 21. And then we're going to get to things to come. Okay? Things to come. Now, what I want to do is Yahweh Shai is speaking on these signs. There's a few articles, current articles, in the last maybe 2 or 3 days. Here in the end of June. Matter of fact, it'll be July next week. So things are moving quick. Okay, time is moving quick. So that means that these prophecies, these signs, are going to manifest themselves quickly as well. Okay, so let's start here at verse 9. It says, when you hear of wars and disturbances, civil unrest, revolts, uprisings, do not panic. So we have to look in the world today and see if there are any civil unrest, revolts, or uprisings, or disturbances. It says, do not panic, for these things must take place first, but the end will not come immediately. So we're not at the very end of this system, but this is a sign that the system is coming to an end. So what I have here, excuse me, so this is out of Kenya, and it says at least 16 people killed and 400 injured in Kenyan protests. All right. So it says police clash with people marching in Nairobi and other areas to honor those killed in protests last year. So there's a lot of disturbances that's going on out there in Kenya. Okay. This is from June 25th, 2025. And this is from The Guardian. Okay, so what they have here, let's see. Okay, so let's read this. So it says at least 16 people have been killed and 400 injured in Kenya as a nationwide demonstration to honor those killed during last year's anti-government protests. And that's what you see a lot today. You see a lot of protests that are against the rulers, against the government, the leadership of these different countries. They're out in the streets marching and holding signs and chanting and throwing rocks and clashing with police because of these policies that the government is bringing down upon the people. Austerity measures, right? Pressure from above, pressure from below. So it says, is a nationwide demonstration to honor those killed during last year's anti-government protests turned chaotic with police clashing with protesters in different parts of the country. Amnesty International Kenya's executive director, Irungu Houghton, told Reuters the death toll had been verified by the government-funded Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. Most were killed by police, he said. And this is crazy. You know, this is heavy news. Now, recently you had the IUIC come out there and they were speaking. And pretty much what they're doing, you know, when we are there speaking, are protests. You know, but they were speaking out of the Bible and they were clashing with the people out there, and then the police came and launched tear gas canisters at them. And the IUIC in Kenya had to run off. And I believe one or two of the members got injured. And now you're seeing that there's been a number of different people clashing with police in Kenya now. And then you had over 400 killed. So something bad could have happened to the IUIC out there, because y'all's focus is not on pushing the word the right way, but on building up your doctrine and your school in your own eyes. And I'm talking about through the Bishop Nathaniel. His leadership is failing. Okay? He failed those men out there in Kenya. That's not persecution. That was foolish judgment. See, these other countries and these other continents, they're not like America where you can just go out there and protest and speak. See, there's a reason why the word has come out of America. There's certain laws and certain protections that we have here that these other countries don't have and that they don't tolerate. So you got to be on your P's and Q's and really understand about what's going on. Now, if there are any believers in these countries, Kenya and so forth, then the Heavenly Father will wake them up through the Spirit, not by you going out there, getting on a plane, and building up some school that you got to pay for and pay bills and rent and then teach them, so you can make trips out there and say you're building up Israel. And the majority of the motivation behind that, it's all about money. What did Deacon Asaph call it? Progress. We want to build the nation and we got to see the progress. Well, the only progression that is going to be seen is the elect waking up. And a lot of those people in Kenya, some of them are Jake, but a lot of them are the line of Cush. They're Hamites of a whole nother nation. So you don't know who's who. So you just, trying to reach all the scattered Israelites, and it's not working out. So they're clashing over there in Kenya right now, as you can see in that image. It says most were killed by police, and that's who was shooting them tear gas canisters at the IUIC, the Kenyan police. So they could have did some real damage, man. We're living in dangerous times. It says a joint statement from groups supporting the protest said 83 people were seriously injured and at least 8 people were being treated for gunshot wounds. See, it didn't say nothing about rubber bullets. They're using live ammunition. It says we pray for our nation, dialogue, and a way forward from the political impasse facing Kenya, said the statement from the Law Society of Kenya, the Police Reforms Working Group, and the Kenya Medical Association. Thousands of Kenyans took to the streets early on Wednesday. Now imagine if IUIC was out there trying to blitz those Kenyan churches out there. They would have got caught up in that. Especially in Nairobi. It says thousands of Kenyans took to the streets early on Wednesday to pay tribute to more than 60 people who died during last year's protests, which climaxed on June 25th with an attempt to storm Parliament. I think I did a video on that last year, because a lot of these protests, reminiscent of what happened January 6th here in the U.S. when they stormed the U.S. Capitol, the White House. They were doing the same thing in countries overseas, because it's all set up. They use the same playbook in different countries around the same time to make, to really further their agenda, their order out of chaos. We know how the Illuminati and the elites move, but this is what they did last year in Kenya, and it led to people being put to death. So it says, thousands of Kenyans took to the streets early on Wednesday to pay tribute to more than 60 people who died during last year's protests, which climaxed on June 25th with an attempt to storm Parliament while MPs inside military police, while MPs, that's what we call them here, while MPs inside passed legislation to raise taxes. So that's out in Kenya. Okay. And what does the scripture say? It says that there will be civil unrest, revolts, and uprisings. So let's look at some more. So this is from the Taipei Times, and this is coming out of Panama from June 23rd. Panama cuts internet to rest of region. Okay, so that's civil unrest. It says Panamanian authorities on Saturday, so last weekend, partially suspended internet and mobile phone service in a western province where a state of emergency was in effect after 2 months of anti-government unrest. What does the scripture say? What does the Bible say? Luke 21:9, when you hear of wars and disturbances, civil unrest. Okay, civil unrest. So that's what we're seeing here out of Panama. Okay, civil unrest, anti-government unrest. It says right-wing Panamanian President Jose Raul Molino declared the emergency on Friday, suspending freedom of assembly and movement in Bocas del Toro province. Now, they could do the same thing here. Here it is, you have the freedom of assembly, freedom of, the Bill of Rights, but the government could suspend that. Trump is definitely the type of leader to do that. You see what happened in the LA protests and those riots, and he took over the National Guard of the state of California, and they took him to court on that, and he won. He's still in control. And that was as of last week? So these are what these leaders are doing. They're coming down on their people. It says, right-wing Panamanian President Jose Raul Molino declared the emergency on Friday, suspending freedom of assembly and movement in Bocas del Toro province, where protesters have set up roadblocks, damaged the airport, businesses and offices. Yeah, that's unrest. The Panamanian National Authority, now the Panamanians, they're of the tribe of Zebulon. They're also Israelites. Okay? Those are Israelites down there. The Panamanian National Authority for Public Services wrote on social media that based on the emergency decree, the temporary suspension of mobile phone and residential internet service has been coordinated in the province of Bocas del Toro until June 25th. All right, so 2 days ago? And they could do the same thing here in the U.S. You want to get access to internet, you want to have access to your phone, something big can happen soon. It's going to happen, but it could happen sooner than we think. We'll see how things play out. But we're in a time of turmoil and unrest in this country too. You just had them No Kings protests, and they're having this unrest down here in Panama. Look at this. It says riot police fire at demonstrators during a protest against the Panama government in Changuinola, Panama on Saturday. It says internet services will remain available for healthcare, businesses, and government entities, the agency said. Anti-government protests began almost 2 months ago. So you don't hear about this on your local news station. You're not going to hear about this on Fox or CNN. Okay? This is news you got to just be in tune with the alternative news. You got to be in tune with the prophecies to look things up, research things, and then certain articles and news reports will pop up. Recent news. That's what I did, and that's how I found this. Because I'm looking for the prophecies to come to pass. That's why I asked the question, are you paying attention to what's going on? Are you watching for the signs? Because they're taking place. It says they turned violent on Thursday in the city of Changuinola when groups of hooded individuals looted businesses and partially set fire to a baseball stadium with police officers inside, authorities said. Damn. That's chaos. The unrest has seen 1 dead, more than 100 arrested, and dozens injured, including 13 police officers, according to authorities. Molino has been facing protests on several fronts in recent months. Workers with U.S. banana giant, U.S., so that means Esau's part of that oppression over there. Workers with U.S. banana giant Chiquita in Bocas del Toro went on strike in late April over pension reforms adopted by Panama's Congress, which critics say would force them to work longer. Chiquita sacked thousands of workers over the strike. The banana growers' unions called off their protests last week in a bid to reverse the layoffs, but other groups have remained at the barricades. Besides the pension reforms, Panamanians have also been in the streets over a deal Molino struck with the U.S. President Donald Trump Like I said, Esau got his hand in this. In April, allowing U.S. troops to deploy to Panamanian bases along the Panama Canal. The U.S. Embassy in Panama issued a security alert on Friday prohibiting U.S. government staffers from traveling to Bocas del Toro until further notice. All this is in the scriptures. All of this is in the scriptures. Okay? Let's go here. Let's go to, I'm here. 2nd Ezra 15, right? Same chapter. 2nd Ezra 15 and 16. It says, "For there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, anti-government protests, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power." So there's going to be sedition, an uprising against who? Against the government. By who? The people. It says, "A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able." I just read that. The U.S. staffers of the embassy, they couldn't go into the region. They cut off the internet services, except for business and healthcare. So we're living in a time where these prophecies are coming to pass. But are you paying attention? Are you paying attention? We're coming to the end of this place. Okay, so let's go to Luke 21 and 10, things to come. Then Yahushua told them, right, Yahushua, "Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom." Okay, and what's in the news dealing with that situation? Okay, well, here's the latest update here. This is CNN, but this is one of the updates dealing on, let's see here. The U.S. versus Iran, Israel versus Iran situation. So it says, Trump criticizes Iranian leader after lawmakers receive classified briefing. Okay. Let's see what this says here. Trump on Iran. U.S. President Donald Trump said he would absolutely, here we go, kingdom against kingdom, nation against nation. U.S. President Donald Trump said he would absolutely consider bombing Iranian nuclear sites again if he thought it necessary. Trump also claimed he had considered removing sanctions on Iran earlier this week, but the Iranian leader declaring victory caused Trump to abruptly drop those plans. Yeah, the Ayatollah of Iran, he said they basically have claimed victory over Israel. And Trump wasn't having that, man. The least of the flock shall draw them out. These are the times that we should be getting excited about. Okay? Because they're happening. But like the scriptures say, but the end will not come immediately. But we're in that time. So you can get excited. Not too excited. Not 3 excited. Not 4 excited. But we can get excited. Okay? It said do not panic. Congress split over intel briefing. Lawmakers left a classified briefing on Iran today, divided along party lines, with Republicans reinforcing their belief that the U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear sites were effective, while some Democrats expressed skepticism. So this whole situation is leading to is building up the divide between the classes, you know, and the political parties here in the U.S. Okay. Bunker buster update. The U.S. military did not use bunker buster bombs on one of Iran's largest nuclear facilities last weekend due to the site's depth. The top U.S. general told senators, according to sources. This story is still unfolding. Okay, so that's that. There's another one here. from the age of times. Okay? So when you read the scriptures or you study in the Bible, all you got to do is just look up, any articles or news reports to see what's coming to pass. Because that's how you know what time it is. When you look at the clock and you say, "Oh, it's 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. It's almost lunchtime," then it's the same thing with these prophecies. You watch for the signs. You read the scriptures. You read what the signs are, and then you look on the news, mainly alternative news, to get a report on how close we are to the scriptures being fulfilled. So this is from June 27, 2025. NATO summit shows Europe and U.S. no longer have a common enemy. NATO head Rutte will have his hands full managing Trump's declining interest in protecting Europe if he is to keep the Russians at bay. So there's beef, there's a conflict between the U.S. and the beast and NATO, which is going to lead up to another prophecy. Okay, and here they are together. And there was also this report that came out that Trump got booed when he got to the NATO meeting. He was booed because these other nations are going to also, those that are allied with America, Babylon, they're going to turn against them. Okay, let me get those precepts real quick. Let's go to, let me do this. I'll go to the book of Obadiah. Obadiah in the Old Testament. And I'll read it very quick. This is Obadiah 1 and 7. Well, I'll start at verse 6. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? It says, all the men of thy confederacy, so those that are confederate, those that are in league and in alliance with Esau here in America, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee, NATO, and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. So these allies of America are going to eventually wound this place. Okay? Let's get further edification on that. Let's go to the book of Revelation. The book of Revelation. And when you know these scriptures, then you know how to put the puzzle pieces of the prophecies together. Revelation chapter 17, 15, let's see. Here we go, Revelation 17 and 15. And he saith to me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. The waters are people, the whore is America. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. The 10 horns are the European nations. You got the EU, you got NATO, okay? Which the 10 horns EU is a part of the beast, which is NATO. These shall hate the whore is America. So these European nations are starting to look at America different, especially now with Trump in his second term. It says they shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. And that's the ultimate end of America, which is also known as the whore, also known as Babylon the Great. Also known as Sodom and Gomorrah, also known as Egypt. Because Sodom and Gomorrah was burned up by fire, that's how America's going to be burnt up. It says, for the Most High hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will. So we're looking for signs that these other nations will be against America, and we're looking at it now. It says, for the Most High to put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. So it's ultimately the power of the Lord that's in control through his word. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. And who is that? That's the U.S., that's America. So this NATO tension that we're seeing, and this tension between the U.S. and America, Europe, NATO, it's all a part of the prophecies that I just read. So it says Mark Rutte had an unenviable task at the Hague summit this week. The NATO Secretary General had to work with diverging American and European views of current security threats. So they're at odds right now. After Rutte made extraordinary efforts at highly deferential overt flattery of Donald Trump to secure crucial outcomes for the alliance, he seems to have succeeded for now. But what this meeting and the run-up have made increasingly clear is that the U.S. and Europe no longer perceive themselves as having a single common enemy. So the beast is breaking apart. Okay? NATO was established in 1949. Yep, got to know the history. As a defensive alliance against the acknowledged threat from the USSR. This defined the alliance through the Cold War until the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. So that's some history for you. Let me see here. Let me see if it mentions anymore. If it mentions any more about the tension between America and Europe. Let's see here. Okay, it says there are some symbolic moves that signal how things are changing. Every NATO summit declaration since the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022 has used the same form of words. We adhere to international law and to the purposes and principles of the Charter of the United Nations and are committing to upholding the rules-based international order. So there's rules to how these nations are supposed to deal with each other. Okay? So let me read this here. It says, this appears to be a carefully orchestrated output of a deliberately shortened summit. And I'm just going through this. Y'all can pause and you can read it for yourself. Look it up. Okay? You got to be like the Church of Berea. You got to look these things up. Okay? For yourselves. That's how you get it. That's how you understand it. It says, designed to contain Trump's unpredictable interventions. This also seems symptomatic of a widening division between the American strategic trajectory and the security interests perceived by Canada and the European members of NATO. Okay, so there's not a cohesion, there's a division building up. That this declaration was so short and so focused on such a narrow range of issues suggests there were unusually entrenched differences that could not be surmounted. Since the onslaught of the full Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, the NATO allies have been united in their criticism of Russia and support for Ukraine until now. Since January, the Trump administration has not authorized any military aid to Ukraine and significantly reduced material support to Ukraine and criticism of Russia. Trump has sought to end the war rapidly on terms effectively capitulating to Russian aggression. His proposal suggests recognizing Russia's control over Crimea and de facto control over some other occupied territories. It says he also suggested Ukraine would not join NATO, but might receive security guarantees and the right to join the EU. Because if you, and the Apostle Hardy spoke on this recently, because if the Ukraine joins NATO and they're at war with Russia, then that would automatically be World War III, and all the nations of NATO, of the EU, will have to get involved in that war. And that's something that these nations don't want. Okay? Because that would be nuclear destruction. But we know that it's going to happen as far as World War III is going to take place anyway. But they're trying to control how they get there. Okay? So if the Ukraine was to join NATO, that will automatically be World War III based upon Article 5. Okay? Let's look that up. Article 5. And like I said, this is spirit, because Apostle Hart, he just mentioned this of NATO charter. So let's get this. So it says, Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty, NATO's founding treaty, establishes the principle of collective defense, stating that an armed attack against one or more NATO members shall be considered an attack against them all. Okay? And if Russia was to attack a Ukraine that's a part of NATO, then that means they all will have to get involved. This means that if one member is attacked, all other members are obligated to assist the attacked member, though the specific actions taken are decided by each individual nation. NATO has invoked Article 5 only once, following the 9/11 terrorist attacks. So there you go. So that would be World War III. Okay? So it's important that, that you Israelites understand how close we are, with these prophecies, man. Okay? Luke 21:10. Then Yahweh told them, nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. Okay? Let's go to this next article here. So that was that, right? So what else did it mention? So earthquakes, right? Let's go back to Luke 21:11. There will be violent earthquakes, and in various places famines, and deadly and devastating pestilences, plagues, epidemics, and there will be terrible sights and great signs from heaven. So let's deal with this earthquake. Check this out. So this is from the Malay Mail, MalayMail.com. It says hundreds of earthquakes shake Japan's remote Tokara Islands. Agency warns of stronger tremors ahead. Okay, when was this dated? This is Thursday, June 26, 2025. Okay, it says a remote island chain in southern Japan has been rattled by more than 470 earthquakes since Saturday. The National Weather Agency said on Thursday, so that's less than a week, calling for residents to stay alert. No major damage has been reported from the series of quakes, with the strength of at least one slightly perceptible to people seated quietly indoors on Japan's 7-point seismic intensity scale. As of Thursday morning, 474 earthquakes have been observed around the Tokara Island chain, south of Kyushu, the Japan Meteorological Agency said. It says seismic activity has increased As this region has experienced extended periods of earthquake activity in the past, please be vigilant against earthquakes that cause strong shaking, it said in a statement. Well, if you remember, so years back, what was that? Fukushima, Japan. There was a major earthquake, and that nuclear reactor site spilled. Oh man, heavy radiation waste into the ocean, and there were reports of it washing up all the way to the coast of California and getting into the fish population. It could poison the people out there. That's how bad it was. Okay. So that region, which is also known as the Ring of Fire in the Pacific, is known for all kinds of different earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions. So those people got to be vigilant out there. This is the largest tremors recorded since Saturday were 2 magnitude 5.1 quakes, one on Sunday and one on Tuesday. So that's heavy. Okay, but the Lord said that there would be earthquakes in diverse places. Hundreds of earthquakes shake Japan. Now this next one here, because there's more. Okay, this is from June 27th, 2025. Albania. Let's look up Albania. Albania is a republic in southeastern Europe bordering on the Adriatic Sea. Population 2.9 million. Official language Albanian. Capital Tirana. So over there in Europe. So you got earthquakes in Japan, earthquakes in Europe. Albania hit by 3 earthquakes in a few days. See, these earthquakes are hitting not just one big one this month and then 6-7 months from now another one, maybe a year or 2 from now there's another one. No, they're hitting multiple. These places are getting hit with multiple quakes in a few days, not even a week. And you have almost 500 earthquakes that happen in Japan. So it says Albania has been rocked by 3 earthquakes in just 5 days, causing concern among residents, especially in Tirana and surrounding areas. Fortunately, no human or material damage has been reported. The first earthquake occurred 3 days ago on Tuesday morning at around 5:05 with a magnitude of 4.4. The epicenter was reported 16 kilometers northwest of Tirana, which was the capital, right, near Kruja, at a shallow depth. So the more shallow the depth of the quake to the surface, that means there's more damage. It says, which made the tremors clearly felt in the capital and beyond. The 2 most recent earthquakes occurred on Friday morning with 2 consecutive tremors. First in magnitude 4.2, second in magnitude 3.8. So it says here, seismological institutions continue to monitor the situation, while experts emphasize that these are normal tremors for our region, which is located in an area with modern seismic activity. But due to the prophecies, these quakes are not just happening in your region, they're happening all over the world. Okay, let's show another one. Okay, this is from Fox Weather. This is from June 24, 2025. Shaking reported across Puerto Rico after magnitude 5.7 earthquake off the Dominican Republic. These are literally different regions of the earth. You got the Caribbean with Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, Jamaica, and then you got Europe, and then you got in Asia, which the quakes, hundreds of quakes were in Japan. This is prophecy coming to pass. And these things are happening a lot more frequently. Okay? It says shaking was reported across the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico on Monday night after an earthquake was reported off the coast of the Dominican Republic. The USGS said the magnitude 5.7 quake struck about 48 miles northeast of the popular travel destination of Punta Cana around 2:45 p.m. local time. And one thing that I noticed, these tourist regions, these areas where people like to travel to, are getting hit with major quakes. You had that one streamer, what's his name, Speed. He was out there in Thailand when that earthquake hit Myanmar and killed all those people, and they felt it all the way to Thailand. He was out there in Thailand streaming. You know, these influencers, and then you get these jakes that travel overseas and think they're due for a hot girl summer, right? You're talking about you black woman, you due for a black hot girl, black girl summer, black girl magic summer, and then a quake hits your vacation location. Hey man, we're not in the time to be fucking around, okay? Because you're gonna find out. Prophecy's coming to pass. It says the USGS also said the earthquake was reported at a depth of about 42 miles. These quakes are hitting these different places, and you don't know where it's going to hit next. Hundreds of people reported feeling the shaking, with most reports received by the USGS coming from Puerto Rico. Numerous aftershocks have also been reported, which are just more quakes, with the largest being a magnitude 4.2. No tsunami advisories were issued, and so far, there are no reports of significant damage or injuries. And that's for all these quake reports, but they're happening. They're happening in different regions. So what does it say in the scriptures? What does the Bible say? Luke 21:11. There will be violent earthquakes, and in various places, famines, and deadly and devastating pestilences, plagues, epidemics. So now let's deal with famines, because famines are like shortages, okay? So this also came out recently. This is from June 27, 2025. These 6 Costco items could see shortages over Trump's tariffs. Costco, like many retailers, is grappling with the tariff policy implemented by President Donald Trump, which could lead to increased prices and product shortages. When you have product shortages, that's a famine, okay? It means you have less of something. It could be a famine of food, water. It could be a famine of products. So it says Costco, like many retailers, is grappling with the tariff policy implemented by President Trump, which could lead to increased prices and product shortages. I'll try to read this here. It's a lot of pop-ups, so I'll be quick with this one. The wholesaler, known for his options to buy in bulk, is not alone in this predicament. Other stores like Walmart are also bracing for price hikes, with their CEO recently stating that higher prices were unavoidable. So we can see more than just eggs go up. You know, you got eggs going up in price, shortages of eggs and things. Well, prices are, it's gonna happen, okay? It says in a March earnings call, Costco CEO Ron Vacris expressed uncertainty about the effect of tariffs on its product offerings. The company leader explained about a third of Costco sales in the U.S. are imported from other countries, which makes it difficult to predict the impact of tariffs. So that's it on that. So that's your famine, that's your shortages, okay? Now the recent news on this that I saw, and this is from Yahoo Finance, updated today, 2:21 p.m. Trump tariffs live updates. Trump says he is terminating trade talks with Canada. U.S. China clinch truce. So this is the most recent news on this. So it says President Trump on Friday said he was cutting off trade talks with Canada and threatened to set a new tariff rate on the country's goods within the next week. Trump said the move was in response to Canada's move to implement a digital service tax on technology companies, calling it a direct and blatant attack on our country. Yeah, because if you remember when Trump was first announcing them tariffs on different countries, Canada struck back saying, we're going to tax you too. And that's when, the story got bigger, in the news. Let's see here. It says, we will let Canada know the tariff that they will be paying to do business with the United States of America within the next 7-day period, Trump wrote on Truth Social. The abrupt blow-up in U.S.-Canada relations followed a flurry of optimism on the trade front that helped send stocks to new records on Friday. Most notably, the U.S. and China stepped closer to a full tariff and trade deal, making a pact to formally cement the informal trade understanding reached in Geneva talks in May. So they're trying to reach this deal with China because, as mentioned before by brothers and like the Apostle Hart said, Trump putting these tariffs on China was a stupid move because America's not in the position to make different products and grow its GDP, and it imports a lot from these other countries, so and mainly from China. So putting major percentage tariffs on China was stupid. Because like I read in the previous article, companies like companies like Costco and Walmart are going to be highly affected, and people are going to see prices go up. U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports will start at 30%. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Friday, China tariffs on U.S. imports will be 10%. So that's where they're at now. And Trump had to come down from that 120% tariff rate. So let's go to the next one here. So, and this is for the individuals out here that may be like, oh, well, things are, because I've seen it, prices ain't that bad, but certain things have gone up. But this is from CBS News. This is from Money Watch, okay? The Trump tariffs aren't causing U.S. prices to spike. Here's why. So I'm just going to read some of this, and then I'll just read off a list of what it says. So it says, despite concerns earlier this year that President Trump's tariffs would cause a renewed bout of inflation, the prices of goods and services across the U.S. have remained relatively stable. The Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation gauge, rose 2.3% in May, modestly above the central bank's 2% annual target. The May Consumer Price Index rose at an annual rate of 2.4%, cooler than economists expected. It says the muted inflation data reflects short-term steps taken by some companies to offset the tariff impact, such as pre-ordering inventory, absorbing the cost of some tariffs to cushion consumers from price hikes. So these companies are pretty much taking the brunt of it, and leveraging loopholes to delay or lower duty payments, economists say. Many businesses have been creative and savvy in using different means to buffer the initial shock. EY Parthenon chief economist Gregory Dacko told CBS Money Watch. That doesn't mean consumers and businesses who were battered by the highest inflation in decades during the pandemic are out of the woods. Janetti Goldberg, head of U.S. rate strategy at TD Securities, thinks prices are likely to rise as tariffs gradually push up import costs in the second half of the year. Okay? It says we still think in next few months we'll continue to see the impact of new trade policies on price levels, and they should translate into higher inflation, Goldberg said. Here are 3 reasons why tariffs haven't driven up inflation as much as many economists expected, at least for now. So I'm just going to read these. So it says aggressive front loading, which pretty much they stocked up. Okay. The next one is waiting for clarity. Okay. Some businesses facing higher tariffs are choosing to hold off on passing any cost increases through to consumers as they wait for the fog around the U.S. trade policy to lift. And then the next one, lower tariff costs. Although Mr. Trump has announced sky-high tariff rates, the actual duties collected at the U.S. border so far are lower than the official rates. That's because some importers have been able to skirt the levies by storing goods in so-called bonded warehouses or foreign trade zones. So that could mean zones to where Trump hasn't put heavy tariffs on those areas, and then they import from there because that's where they store their goods at. So that could be like a way to get around it. Okay, now I'm gonna show you something in prophecy, because you think you think you're good, but we're not good yet. Okay, things are going to increase at a everything is going to increase. Hold on one second. Let's go to 2nd Ezra. The evils are going to increase. 2nd Ezra chapter 16. 2nd Ezra chapter 16 and 21. So it says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, right, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. So you think, okay, there's nothing happening right now. Trump might get a hold of this. But as the economists say, we can see things hit in the later half of the year. Because we're 6 months in. We're about to hit July next month. That'll be 7 months. So we can see things increase. Okay? Inflation and prices increase. It says, they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. That's the time we're living in. Hey, Bible prophecy is speaking. Okay? It's speaking. Okay? Now the next thing that the scriptures mention here was dealing with, it says, Luke 21:11, there will be violent earthquakes, and in various places famines, and deadly and devastating pestilences, plagues, epidemics, right? So illnesses, diseases, okay? So check this out. Hold on one second. So this is from today.com. It says new COVID variant Nimbus now dominant in the U.S. So there are a number of different cases. Right. It says a fast-spreading new C19 variant called Nimbus is now the dominant strain in the U.S. The mutated Omicron subvariant, that was a variant of the C19, which is associated with a painful symptom called razor blade throat, caused surges earlier this year in China, and other parts of Asia. Nimbus is now spreading rapidly in the U.S., driving 43% of cases, data shows. So, and it says cases are expected to keep rising. So there's a new, hey, they didn't stop this thing. So now what you're gonna do, because you got that jump shot, you think you're good? Which that's the reason why a lot of people are allegedly, while a lot of people are no longer here. So let's go to the next one. Okay? Measles. PBS.org. This is from June 20th, 2025. Iowa announces measles outbreak as U.S. tops 1,200 confirmed cases. The U.S. logged fewer than 20 measles cases this week, though Iowa announced the state's first outbreak Thursday and Georgia confirmed its second Wednesday. So there's over 1,200 confirmed cases of measles that's breaking out in the U.S. Scripture says that there will be pestilences, there will be illnesses. Okay. Mpox. Okay, remember the Mpox story that was last summer? Monkeypox. Well, it says Mpox in Sierra Leone. What's behind the recent surge and why West Africa is at risk? Who's in West Africa? Israelites. So you got Mpox. This is as of June 17, 2025. There have been over 4,000 confirmed cases of Mpox and 25 deaths in Sierra Leone, raising the possibility that the virus will spread to neighboring countries and spark a larger outbreak throughout the densely populated region of West Africa. Cases in Sierra Leone appear to be spreading from person to person, mainly among young men and women. It says the Conversation Africa asked Gia Kungbai, an infectious diseases epidemiologist at Njala University in Freetown, what's behind the upsurge and how it can be stopped. So this scripture here says that there will be epidemics to take place. Luke 21:11. It says, in deadly, devastating pestilences, plagues, epidemics. So this is what you do. If you know these scriptures and you know the prophecies, you know the words of Yahweh, then you can find these things happening in the earth. Maps and statistics for March 25th, 2025 for everyone. This is from cdc.gov. It says an average of 7 human plague cases are reported each year in the United States. So this is dealing with the plague. Okay? More recent plague epidemics have occurred in Africa, Asia, and South America, but most human cases since the 1990s have occurred in Africa. Yeah, because that's Esau trying to wipe out Jake. Plague occurs in the western U.S., with most cases in northern New Mexico and Arizona. Plague in the United States. So let's read this. It says over 80% of the U.S. plague cases have been the bubonic form. In recent decades, an average of 7 human plague cases have been reported each year, 0 to 17 cases per year. Plague has occurred in people of all ages, infants up to age 96, though 50%, that's half of the cases, occur in people ages 12 to 45. That's your prime years, right? It occurs in both men and women, though historically it's slightly more common among men, probably because of increased outdoor activities that put them at higher risk. So that's what the scriptures say. Okay? I think it mentions plagues, right? It mentions plagues. Yeah, plagues, epidemic. Hey, you got the plague, right? Bubonic plague. So we're in the time, man. We're in the time of the end of this kingdom. Okay? It says, and there will be terrible sights and great signs from heaven. Now, recently, there was a quake in Georgia that even brothers here felt here in Atlanta. Let's see here. There was a quake. And there was a, let me see. There was a quake and a fireball, right, that came out of the sky. Here we go. So it says here, no, let me do this. Fireball. So some people say that they saw a fireball, could have been a meteor. Okay, so this is from Fox 5 Atlanta. Okay, this is out of Atlanta, so let's read this. Fireball seen falling from sky over southeast confirmed as meteor possibly hit Georgia home. And people were scared. People were in fear. Okay? So it says NASA confirmed the meteor entered Earth's atmosphere over Georgia, disintegrating with energy equivalent to 20 tons of TNT and causing loud booms and tremors. Some say it felt like an earthquake. That's why I was trying to look that up. The meteor triggered lightning sensors on NOAA's GOES satellites, and Doppler radar detected falling debris with reports of meteorite fragments found. A home in Henry County, Georgia, was struck by unusual debris, possibly linked to the meteor, causing damage but no injuries. 20 tons of TNT. So out of Atlanta, a massive fireball that streaked across the southeastern U.S. sky in broad daylight Thursday has been confirmed by NASA as a meteor, with evidence suggesting it broke apart high above Georgia and may have sent debris crashing to the ground. Okay, and that's supposed to be a radar map. So, hey, this here is the power of the Lord and his words. Luke 21:11, and there will be terrible sights and great signs from heaven. That was a terrible sight to see that meteor. You know, some say that, you know, it could be a chariot. You know, it's something else. That's the story. I'm not sure. I didn't feel or see anything. But these are just the reports. You know. But that's pretty much it on that. I pretty much went through all these points here. You know, with these signs. There's more signs, but you know, I just wanted to get these ones. You know. Here in these verses, and you can read verse 25. It says there will be signs attesting miracles in the sun and moon and stars, right? Which you have eclipses, which you have the major eclipse here in the U.S. and America. It says, and on the earth there will be distress and anguish among nations. Yeah, we're reading about that. The civil unrest, protest, the war. In perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea and the waves, people fainting from fear and expectation of the dreadful things coming on the world. People are feeling like the world is ending. World War III was trending this week, and last week. It says, for the very powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with transcendent, overwhelming power, which is coming back, in a giant chariot, a mountainside so-called UFO, subduing the nations and with great glory. So that means all the nations outside of Israel, the Israelites, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, outside of the elect, these other nations are going to be put into captivity. And then the 2/3 that are destroyed over here in America, the 2/3 of Israelites that are destroyed, they're going to come back in the kingdom through the elect, being reborn. So I just wanted to go through these signs, go through these news events, and also the return of the Son of Man, Yahweh Shai, will not happen until the MOTB, the micro C-hip, the implant, the biometric implant, is made mandatory. But with that, I'm going to close out. Hope this lesson was edifying. All praises goes to Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai B'Shem Kakwadash. Are you watching the signs? Are you paying attention? With that, I'll say Shalom.